This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where, yes, business owners share their wisdom. It's short and to the point, to respect people's time. And because we know transforming possibility happens really fast and it leads to lasting results. So enough of that. As you know, when you listen, it's like, enough. Let's get to it. Question number one, in a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Well, first of all, I like short and to the point because that's kind of me. I don't know if I'm to the point, but I'm short for sure. Who am I? That's one of my favorite questions to ask people on my podcast as well, is who am I? I am a man on a mission to leave people better. There's no other way I could frame that would do any justice to what I do in this world. I used to have one of those long mission statements of, I'm here to do this and this and this. And when I really took a step back and thought, what am I doing in this world? I leave people better. So I coach, I fitness coach, I business coach, I podcast, I wrote a book, I do all the things, I post on social media all the time, but I'm here to leave people better. It's simple as that.
I have to compliment you. That's one of the best answers I've ever had. There's a lot of people, you and I both know it. You said it. What a lot of people do is like blah, 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 with the long like mission statement. I know I've been exposed to it too. And it's taken me a long time to get out of that, right? It's a built skill. But I love what you said. It's so succinct. It's so clear. And all the tactical stuff, that comes on a later conversation when people actually get to know you, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. And having that singular mission makes my decision making easy, makes my life have way better ease than it used to have, and I can just look around and go, okay, are my actions leaving people better? Whether it's my clients, my spouse, a stranger in the grocery store, my kids, like, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm checking off that box, then I sleep well at night knowing that I'm doing the things that I want to do in this world.
I absolutely love that. And I celebrate you for your answer and for the work that you've done to get there. That's amazing. I love it. Question number two, zipping right along. What's the best thing now? I know you got to dig deep on this one. What's the best thing about being in business?
I've said this for years. Being in business for yourself is amazing because you don't have to answer to anyone. There's no one to hold you accountable, and you get to do whatever you want to do. And being in business for yourself is also very frightening because you don't answer to anyone. There's no one to hold you accountable and no one to tell you what to do. And, ultimately, I think it's not for everyone. Entrepreneurship is definitely not for everyone. There's a lot of people that are really, really good at what they do that should not run a business. They should just be in an environment where they can do the thing that they love doing. But for those of us who want more, who want a greater impact in the world, who understand that it's not just about the people we serve from a client base, but the people we can partner with, the people we can hire and provide them with a great living and a great working environment and help them see their dreams come true. Like, that's what it's really all about. And so, I worked for someone years ago. I'm 20 years into coaching right now. And the first 3 years I spent in big box gyms, and I've been on my own ever since. So I can't even fathom working for someone ever again. And, I went through all the struggles and the ups and downs like all the rest of us, but man, I just wouldn't trade it for the world because I've truly been able to craft a life that I love showing up for. And I don't think there's a lot of people that can really say that. That's a bold statement. And, it doesn't take long talking to, I don't want to say regular people, but it doesn't take long talking to regular people to figure out that most people are not happy in their career, much less their life, much less just operating with joy throughout their day.
You just dropped a lot of truth there and a lot of value rolled up into, I'll call it paragraph form, shortened form. There's a lot of, if we were to look at everything you said, and I would encourage anybody listening or watching, don't just overlook don't just zip right through it and overlook what he just said. You just dropped a lot of value within that because I know it didn't take you a year to get to where you are. Now, if I were to paraphrase that really quick, they talk about the masses, right? So where you said regular people, right? I think you were saying like the masses. Some people, they have no desire for change, right? And they're definitely not equipped to be entrepreneur. because it takes a lot of discipline to be an entrepreneur, as any entrepreneur knows, right? But there's a larger topic there, and that is people in general, the masses, or there's the 2%, as they refer to them, the 98% and the 2%, right? A lot of people in the masses that just don't have the discipline or the drive or the desire or the determination or all those things that you must have. You must find them as an entrepreneur if you want to be a successful, not money wise,
right?
But what you're describing, if you want to reach the point where you love what you do and are able to do it effectively, that takes work. And so again, I come back to you with the mic, but I say, I celebrate you. It's apparent to me how much work you've done to get there.
It's a mindset. I mean, it truly is a mindset in embracing that. It's a different type of struggle. We say all the time, you get to choose your hard, right? If you're fat and out of shape, that's hard. If you're in great shape, that's also hard. Takes a lot of work. When you're broke, that's hard. When you're rich, comes with a whole different set of problems. It's hard as well. Just it's a different type of hard. But, thankfully we get to make that choice. For the most of us, if you live in the United States, you're privileged already. You are the 1% in the world. So don't lose sight of that. But, you get to make that choice. And as you said, there's nothing wrong with somebody who has a 9-to-5. If that truly fills you with joy, which most people, I don't think it does, but if it does, and you love what you do and you have a lifestyle that you enjoy and you don't want for things, then by all means, live that life. It's yours to live. But for those of us who want more, and I'm glad you said it's not about the money, like we learn at some point that the money comes. If you're really good at what you do and you're consistent over time, eventually the money shows up. For some of us, it takes a whole lot longer than others. Hi. But that level of internal success and fulfillment is just unmatched when you know that you didn't build it alone. I get it. We all have people that have helped us along the way, but the mental strength that it takes to fight through that, to get to this point, is what molds the winners. And, you see it in sports is the best analogy always, because people relate to that. But, the Super Bowl was a few weeks ago, and you see a guy like Matt Stafford, who struggled on a terrible team for years on end, finally gets a chance and rises to the occasion, right? He didn't become a Super Bowl champ this year. He became a Super Bowl champ for the, probably 2 decades or more of football that he's played his entire life to get to that point.
100%. And I love that you just framed that up too, very well, by the way. Often said in our circles, like if you're a coach, you've heard this, but if you're not, maybe you haven't. And you're not, the services you're paying for are not for the hour that you're on the call, or the 2 hours, or the 3 hours, or the mastermind, or what. It's the 20 years of painstaking mistake after mistake after mistake, of punching through, learning, failing, getting back up, all that stuff. You're paying for the experience and the wisdom.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like that. That's apparent in your answers, and I love it. I love it. This is great. I love this conversation. You speak my language, my man. Question number 3 is fun. I know you're going to love this one. We hear from other business owners, they're getting so much business, and yes, now, today, yes, it's happening, but they're getting so much business that sometimes the chaos is causing them overwhelm. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm probably unique in this. I don't get overwhelmed. Like I really, I can't even pinpoint a time in my life where I felt overwhelmed. Maybe when, like, I have 2 sons, maybe when they were babies. And, if you've ever had kids, and that in and of itself is just an overwhelming experience. But one thing that I really self-check is, like, when you're feeling something, a lot of people say, I'm overwhelmed. And I correct that and say, no. You are feeling overwhelmed, but you are not overwhelmed. And what happens is I see people that identify themselves with a feeling, and then they embody that feeling even more. Like anxiety is another great example. People, I'm so anxious. I'm such an anxious person. No. you're feeling anxiety, you are not anxious. But when people internalize that and say, I am, and then follow that up, whatever comes after that, I am, is what they are. And so, you know, when I look at my situation, or if I may be feeling a little bit, I'm a pretty stress-free dude. Like I really am. But if I'm feeling that, I always revert back to two things. And this goes back to, I study a lot of Stoicism. I follow a lot of the philosophy behind that. And there's only two things in this world that you get to control, and that's your thoughts and your actions. You have zero control over everything else. You don't control your clients. You don't control your spouse. You only control your kids to a certain extent. But the two things that you can always control are your thoughts and your actions. So if I'm feeling a certain way, or I'm not feeling, you know, at the top of my game, I'm like, okay, take a big deep breath. That always works. Take a step back. What do I have control over in this situation? And then what can I do with the information that I have? And that, for me, centers me every single time. And I see this question a lot. Again, talking about the entrepreneurial world, it's very stressful for a lot of people. And I see this question get asked of, like, man, what do you do when you're just having one of those days and, you know, nothing's going right or whatever? You know what I do? I go help people. And I don't care what avenue it's in. It doesn't have to be business related or anything. It could be, you know, I see some old lady walking down the street that needs help with something. Like, I just go serve. And every time I do that, it brings me up, because yeah, selfishly, it makes me feel better. Like, you know, random acts of kindness are for them, but they're also for you. I don't think there's anything wrong with people taking a little bit of pride and going, you know what, I helped somebody today that I expected absolutely nothing back from them, and I feel great. That's a great thing. Like, we need people that have more joy in the world anyway. But again, it all goes back to, what can I control, which are my thoughts and my actions, and then taking a hold of that. So any stress, any type of overwhelm, or, you know, ratchet in the system that isn't usually there, I revert back to those things every time. And that's what centers me.
I pause, not because I'm not paying 100% attention, but you have me on the edge of my seat, and I love what you're saying. And I mean that response ability, right? We have the ability to respond, is what I heard from what you were saying. And in every moment, we have the ability to choose our response. But what I love about what you said, you didn't just say that, but you also spoke on the emotional side of it, which is not, I mean, I get in circles where they talk about that, but it's not commonly described or talked about, is the emotional side of that. And I like how you just distinctively, I mean, there was a difference. Like, am I thinking logical, or am I thinking emotional right now? Is there valid reasons for me to feel this way? Hey, I do feel this way. I recognize it. But if I want to pull myself from it, here's what really impressed me about what you said. You didn't say, why am I feeling like that? You didn't say, you said what? You said what? And that's such a powerful question. What's it going to take, right, to flip this? Or what's it going to take? Or what you just shared is really powerful. And I want to make sure anybody listening or watching actually picked up on what you just said, because that's powerful stuff.
We have to allow the emotions, and especially as men, you know, from a young age, we're taught, suck it up, rub some dirt on it, all those things. But, you know, a lot of us, again, in this circle of growth, you know, we recognize, okay, that's not healthy behavior. So there's nothing wrong with that feeling. But again, then it's, what do you do with it? And we get to choose that, which is really awesome when you recognize it.
Love it. I love it. I see how healthy you are in your decision making. And I love hearing that. This is great. Question number 4. What other successful business owners, like yourself, of course, should be on the Unlimited Wisdom podcast?
So, you know my circle of friends, or at least you've heard of them. We collectively call ourselves the Goon Squad. I believe all of us but one actually have our own podcast. One of them is launching his own podcast very soon. We're all speakers, we're all authors, we're all coaches, we're all business owners, we're all fathers, we're all husbands. And it's a very unique crew of people. So we got Thomas Keenan, who I know has been on your show, Drew B. Wilson, Mike Claudio, Brian McKittrick, and Chris Whitehead. And I would recommend any of those guys literally for anything, for anyone. I mean, just, you know, men with servant hearts who we're all kind of on this same trajectory in life right now, not just in business, but in life, which is one of the things that's really bonded us tightly. And it's been really cool over the last couple of years to grow with these guys. And for me, it was like, it pinpointed that was one of the biggest missing pieces in my life. And we talk about our circle of people and you are who you hang out with and all those things. And it wasn't that I ever had bad people around me, because I don't look at that and go, and I had bad influence, but I had no influence. I didn't have anybody. And that was partly my fault, that, you know, I would kind of just keep an arm's length away from people. And so having these guys in my life, having a level of accountability that I've never had before, and then being just around a group of people that want to see you win and celebrate that, and that are there for you and that'll call you out on your shit. Like, I mean, it's powerful. It's truly changed my life. And I'm grateful for all of those guys. So anytime anybody needs people to run their mouth that's not me, I highly recommend any of those guys.
I love it. I love it. What a tight group. And I celebrate you all for what you've created. And I know it will only, that tribe, that circle will only continue to grow. So I love hearing it. And there's 3 of them. I'm going to need you to get on their case. I'll let you know after the podcast.
We're busy people. We are busy people.
I'm just teasing. I know. I made contact with all you guys. It's awesome. So let's switch to question number 5, which is where you get to share your wisdom with other business owners. I'm really eager to hear what you have to share. 20 years of experience. I'm sure it's more than that, but just 20 years condensed, coaching and whatnot. What piece of wisdom would you share with other business owners?
There's one overriding theme that I'm sure Thomas talked about it as well, that I didn't understand for a very, very long time. And that's core values. And, I think when you're not in this environment, when you're not reading on a regular basis and somebody says something like that, you're like, core values, like, yeah, we've had those in our company before, back to that convoluted mission statement, that we talked about in the very beginning, right? But when you understand what core values actually mean, and when you understand that all of us operate with a set of core values, whether you understand them or not, like, we have them. But when you clearly define what those are for you as a person, it changes the landscape of everything that you do. Because again, if that becomes the filter for your decision making, if that becomes the filter for what businesses do I start, who do I partner with, if that becomes the filter for who do I hire, I want people that are aligned with my core values. I can't work with people who don't have integrity. In my businesses, I love to have fun. I smile, I joke, I laugh. I need people who value that. And that doesn't have to be like super high up on their chart, but they got to resonate with that somehow. Because if I'm over here joking and cutting up, and I can do that in a manner that still is conducive to what I do. But if I got somebody over here, with a stick up their rear that like never laughs and never cracks a smile, that's not going to work for me. Because it's just not congruent with the type of people that I draw in, with the clientele that I serve, and with the type of business that I want to run. So when I got super, super clear on what my core values were, I was like, it was like the gates were open and the wizard came out from behind the curtain. And it was really revealing to me how powerful it is. And over these last few years of doing more and more business coaching, I've seen it manifest itself over and over and over again when we talk to people and say, hey, here's the exercise. Here's how you determine what your core values are. And then you're going to use these in every aspect of your life. And just to see people grow and change and have that same moment that I had of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why didn't I do this 10 years ago? So there's not one, I can't think of one thing better than getting crystal clear on your core values as a business owner.
I love it. So I love that so much. One, I'm going to ask your permission to do something. So are you pretty open with the questions? I want to flex a little bit, and absolutely, I want to dive into values a little bit. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I love that answer. If you said no, I don't know what I'd do. I'd be like, okay, next question. No, this is great. And the reason I want to do this, so I'm going to flex. I do a lot of deep work. I spent years and years and years in this space. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying that in support of what you just shared. But I really want to offer someone who's listening, someone who's watching, and they're like, yeah, core values again. Like you spoke into it, right? And that's what happens. And I know that a lot of people in the corporate space, so we all know how many toxic and corporate environments there are out there. And there's so many people in that space, whether it's entrepreneurial position or whether you're at work somewhere as an employee and you happen to be listening and watching, you're like, another one of those core value things. But it's because, see, you and I have come through it. So we know what that means now, and we're able to synthesize what you're delivering. I'd really love to just speak into that a little bit and illustrate that a little bit more. So with your permission, would you share just a notch deeper on what that means? And I can ask a more clearer question if you need me to, but just I'll leave it to you to take it from there if you want.
So first of all, I think a lot of people have kind of this jaded perception because they've been in companies that have core values, but nobody lives them. Nobody, it was something that needed to get on a poster to fill up a space on a wall. And then nobody ever talks about them. They don't recite them. They don't say the meaning behind them. They don't understand the correlation between the company and the client and why those things matter. So I think that's why people have such a bad taste in their mouth when we get into things like this. Again, I think when you hold yourself to a standard, you raise yourself up. Again, in the entrepreneur world, it's hard because really there is nobody holding you accountable. You can have your friend circle. Again, I got people that hold me accountable, but at the end of the day, it all rises and falls on me. So, and I'm talking about like, we get the big list out and you start circling the things that are you, and then you narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down. And you get down to 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most of who you are. And so for me, here's my 4 core values. Integrity is number 1. I mean, that's kind of a given. I know it's almost become cliche, but there's also a lot of truth in cliches as well. But if you don't operate in this world with integrity, then you don't really have anything. So, that's number 1 for me. Number 2 is intention. And that means, I used to think it was like hard work, but it's not always hard work. It's just being intentional about the things that you do. So again, whatever it is I'm doing, whether I'm on a podcast with you, whether I'm writing a book, whether I'm training in the gym, coaching people, like I want to be intentional with my actions in those moments. The third thing is empathy. And I think as a coach, you just have to have empathy with people. I never thought that was one of my values or traits. And the way it was kind of revealed to me, I was doing video testimonies with clients from my gym. And I had, set up a couple questions that I would ask and have them just very honestly respond. They didn't know what the questions were, so I got honest responses. And after, 3 or 4 people were like, man, Marc's just really good about meeting me where I am, but, still being able to push me, but understanding. And I was like, I'm empathetic. And I was like, oh, great. I never would have described myself as that. But it's true. And I've seen it more and more now, again, that I'm aware of it. That's something that I can bring to the table with somebody who needs that. And then my 4th core value is entertainment. So I spoke about having fun. I have a great sense of humor. I love laughing. I make sure people are smiling when they leave my gym. I make sure people are smiling when they get off of phone calls with me. And so, I really enjoy making people laugh. Like if I had to go way, way back and like do all the things all over again, I would probably pursue a career in stand-up comedy or something, which means I would be really poor, but I would be making people laugh, and that would be awesome for me. So, those are my 4 core values. And again, everything I do weaves in and out of those things. And so for those of you, if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, core values, trust the process, trust from people that have done it before you. As you said, now we're on the other side of this, because that's all I did. I found people that were doing bigger and better things, but had the lifestyle or the mindset or whatever that I'm like, I want that. Okay, what are they doing? And core values kept coming up. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're doing now. And I think a lot of us just have to put a little bit of faith, obviously, in the right things and the right people and the right programs. But if you do your research and you know who you follow and who you want to follow and what they believe in and what their core values are, then you just got to show up and do the work. And that to me is the easy part. Like if the blueprint is there, just do it. Whatever they tell you to do, just go do that thing. And I promise it'll work for you.
Well, if it only actually happened that way. I love it. But I encourage you, if you're listening and watching, let it happen that way. It's so powerful when you just actually do. When somebody's an expert at something, just follow their lead. Like this guy, he leads people. Follow him. So this is great. I love it. Thanks for playing along there, because that's been a big portion of what I've done now for almost 15 years. And it was a big game changer for me. And I thought I was dumb at first. I really did. I was like, dumb. I remember thinking it, came from my manly side. It's just things that I was taught most of my wrongly, right? Incorrectly taught most of my life. And I'm like, values, isn't that like, I'm not afraid to say it, isn't that girl stuff? Like that's soft skills, that's the kind of background that I had. I'm not like that today, thank goodness. But that's that's the influence that I had when I was young. So just even learning about that, being open, the openness to learning about those. And you described it. List them down. You can pull them off the internet. List them down, pare them down. Like, sure, connect with a coach, someone like yourself who's gone through that training before, if that's what's going to motivate you to do it. But get clear in what you value. But what I really love about what you said is one very particular word. And you said, I use them as a filter. And that one, so being on the other side now, looking back, that one word tells me how much depth. So not only did you say the word, but you also described what it means to you, because meaning matters and it's a little bit different for everyone, right? So the word, what it means to you, and then you use it as a filter. Therein lies the magic, if you want to call it magic, or the value or the effectiveness of those values. Because now as you're walking through your day and whatnot, yes, we get hammered from day to day with different things. Now I get to use these values as a filter. Does this work for me? Is this person right for me? Is this a good fit? So what you shared was absolutely brilliant. And I want to highlight that truly. And the value of the value. Okay, now we're getting weird. The value of the value that you shared. It's so powerful. So thank you for the way you delivered that so eloquently. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I love it. So lately I've been asking this question, and then we'll get to the last question. What I've noticed, and from doing these podcasts, and I know you have a podcast as well, and so I imagine this, 20 years of doing what you're doing, one of the most challenging things for entrepreneurs in particular, people in any business, and this isn't any one particular niche, like I've found this across the board in every industry, every niche that I've worked in, is building a team. Do you have any thoughts you could share for business owners who are looking to build their team? And so we could do this two ways if you want. We do, hey, I'm new. I'm not a seasoned, I'm not a Fortune 500 company income business owner, right? So the newer style business owner. And then do you have any thoughts about larger teams?
So I'll be honest. I've never, well, I shouldn't say I never. So years and years and years and years ago, when I first started my personal training career, I was a part of a pretty big team. I worked at a big box gym. I worked at Lifetime Fitness. We had like 40 trainers on staff, which was a very large training staff. A lot of personalities, a lot of ego. It was one of those things. It was a great time. And it all came back to leadership. And that was the first time I was really exposed to a good leader. So our personal training department head at the time, he wasn't a manager. He truly was a leader, and he understood the difference between those two. So, the people that were there to collect a paycheck and just kind of get by or whatever, we just kind of left them alone. But the ones that showed ambition are the ones that he latched onto. So you talk about the 80-20 rule. Well, why are you going to waste all your time? Like, have systems in place if you need to weed people out. The systems will take care of that. But the people that are showing up, that want more, that are over delivering in every aspect of what they do, like those are the people that should be getting your time. because they're essentially raising their hand, not knowing how to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm here for more. I want to help all of us grow. I want to get better. I want to make more money. And I know if I do that, I'll help everyone around me get better as well. So I think that's a big key component, is pouring into the people who are actually showing up and doing great things. When you look at, like, how do you build a team in the first place? I know we're just beating the dead horse over here, but that goes back to core values too, and involving that in your hiring process. Again, everyone's not going to align with everything that you value, but also looking at the roles that you're hiring for and what you need for those. So, in a gym setting, I need a person that's outgoing. I need a person that's talkative. I need a person that can manage a group of people all at the same time. If I'm hiring for an admin, I don't necessarily need their core value to be entertainment. They may not think my jokes are as funny as I think. Well, that's fine. They'll hurt my feelings a little bit. It'll be good. But, there's a set of values that I need that person to have as well. I need them to value timeliness and organization and things of that nature. And so, and I understand it's hard. I'm in a mastermind group with a lot of contractors right now, like, plumbers, electricians, roofers, and they're having a really hard time with employment. And the tendency is a lot of them just put a warm body in the spot. They're like, man, God, we just need people. Like, the work is there. They're not struggling for work. They're struggling to get the work done because of lack of employment. But every time they bring somebody in that doesn't fit the culture, they last 6 to 8 weeks, and then, they call out, and then they become a nuisance, and then you got to fire them. And then you got to spend all this time and energy going and finding another person, where you're probably better off getting the right people in the very beginning. And again, I know Thomas talks about this quite a bit. At Break Free Academy, there's a pretty intricate system to weed people out. And that may even mean, in the hiring process, you post a job on Indeed, but on the job posting, it says, email your resume to here. And you're just looking for people to actually follow directions, because if that's important to you and what you need people to pay attention to details and follow directions. So again, while it may take your pool of people way down, but it's still the filter that you need, because you're like, okay, they pay attention, they're reading, they're actually being thorough with all the things that we're asking of them. That's probably how they're going to behave if we bring them on, and that's a good thing. So it's tough. And then the other aspect too is, you talk about, you got to hire where you're going, not where you are. And that's a really hard thing as a business owner. It's a really hard thing when you're a solopreneur in the very beginning, because people cost money. and you end up with this fear of, man, where is it going to come from? Am I going to, is the growth in business going to be enough to sustain this person? But, if you got your stuff together and where you're going with things, you got to hire where you're going, because when you can be proactive and not reactive, that's always a good thing in any aspect of life. Buy your wife the flowers before she's mad at you. It's always a good thing, because it keeps her from getting mad at you, right? Not always, but
Also good advice.
But there's just so many facets to it. I do think it rises and falls on core values. It rises and falls on the vision that you have for your business and what you're truly striving for. Some people don't want a huge business. Personally, I don't need a $20 million business. I just don't. I can be smart with my money and make, far less than that, but have a whole lot more and have a lot of freedom. I just don't. At least on this day, as we're having this conversation, I have no desire to run a business that large. And so if you don't have to, there's things you don't need to do because you're not going there. But if you got that vision, if all these roofers, I know a bunch of roofers that they kill it, especially down here in Texas. Like, there's a hailstorm every other week and there's tornadoes and high wind. Man, they crush it down here. These guys just make a ton of money. But there's a couple of roofing companies I know of that are just exploding. And so, they're opening other markets. They're bringing in regional managers. They're spending the money now because they understand what the ROI is on the back end. So there's no easy answer to how do you build a team. That's for damn sure. I mean, there's probably, I don't know, 500,000 books on it somewhere.
Agreed. It's a big, that's why I asked the question, because everybody has a little bit of wisdom to share from their own experience. So I appreciate your share there. I'm gonna ask one real quick question and we're gonna get to the last question. So your website, great website, easy to find you on social. I like to do my due diligence before people hop on. So I've been over and I've done mine. I'm curious, once somebody does this, they hear this and like, this guy's really interesting, I want to get in touch with him, and I do all that. What's something they wouldn't find on your website and social media and out there in the interspace? What's something they wouldn't find about you?
I do a lot of things, and I'm very public about pretty much everything that I do. I mean, there's some like old facts about me that nobody would know unless they knew me back then. But from business coaching to the training that I do in the gym to online coaching, like I try to share me with the world as much as possible because I understand the value of that. So there's not really going to be a whole lot that somebody's not going to be able to find. Maybe not on my website specifically, but I mean, you follow me for 2 days on Facebook and you're going to see 18 posts and some memes that are inappropriate. And there's just not a lot. You're not going to miss a whole lot about who I am. And what's really interesting, Brad, is that I share these little things on Facebook sometimes that it's to make me laugh because I find myself rather amusing. But these things become these little inside jokes where all of a sudden I get tagged in things or people mention me and like the most obscure things that have nothing to do with my business, but everything to do with who I am. Like I love Cadbury eggs. That's my favorite candy in the world. And I've talked about them so much that last year we had a networking event and somebody brought me a box of Cadbury eggs. So the power of social media right there, like, again, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this and you're not utilizing social media, you're missing the boat. And I don't care, I hear people, well, my clients aren't on there. Yeah, they are. Literally, they're all there. They may just be lurking in the shadows. They may never comment or like your stuff or anything, but they're watching. They're paying attention. They're always there. So yeah, I really think someone would be hard pressed to research me, go down the rabbit holes and not find out, at least right now, not find out who I am and what I do and what I love in this world.
I love that answer. It's pure authenticity at its finest. And you walk the talk and you just are who you are, not just in the cliche way, but you're fully aligned. I absolutely love that answer. That's probably the best answer I've ever had, to be honest, and to really celebrate you for that. All right. This is it. This is the last question.
Drum roll.
Yeah. Look, I know you all listening. I got to divert for a minute. You were talking about Cadbury eggs. Everybody knows the running joke. So I know you're listening right now. It's Windmill Cookies. I'll just leave it. I know you don't get it yet, but I'll fill you in later.
Now I got homework to do. It's all good.
I had to throw that out there because I just love what you just shared. I mean, there's beauty in it, and I totally relate to what you're just saying. For me, it's Windmill Cookies. Anyhow, look, we work to live and not the other way around. Of course, I think I did get that wrong on one of my podcasts, which was pretty funny. But anyway, look, we work to live. So what is the most fun vacation you've ever had?
So, I knew this one was coming, and I actually have 2 answers for this. Years ago, I believe my sons were probably 11 and 5, maybe a year younger than that. And I took them to Cancun, and it was the first real vacation. I'm going to call it real vacation. It was the first real vacation that I was able to take with them. Early on, I just made a point that I was going to give my kids experiences at least once a year. We were going to go on a family vacation, go somewhere, have fun. And I took them to this resort in Cancun. It was all inclusive, and it was very kid friendly. Like it had a water park at the resort, and they had a blast. My youngest one figured out how to swim while we were there. Like we had done swim lessons and everything, and it just wasn't clicking in his head. And all of a sudden one night we're in the pool and they're drinking, virgin strawberry daiquiris. And he's like, I want to try to swim. I'm like, okay. And it was one of those things where he's on the edge and I would just slowly scoot back a little more, a little more, a little more. And then all of a sudden something clicked in his head. And ever since then, he was like a little fish. I mean, the next day he was just swimming back and forth in the pool. It was amazing. So, you know, that one always sticks out in my head because it was so special. It was such a special moment. You know, it was at the time, it was the most money I'd ever spent on a vacation. You know, we're leaving the country. I got to get them passports, all these things. And it was really, really incredible. It was really special to me. The other one is just happened a few weeks ago in January, and me and the Goon Squad, we went down to Cabo. We took our wives with us. We stayed in a mansion in Pedregal. And if you don't know what that area is, it's basically a giant subdivision of mansions that many of them literally overlook the Pacific Ocean. And we get in this house. This is a 7-bedroom house, literally on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Every day you see whales out there in the water. The house came with a staff. We didn't cook a thing. We didn't clean a thing. Yeah, I mean, we cleaned up after ourselves, but everything about it, number one, was incredible. Number two, I can't tell you how many times we looked around at each other like, we're here. Like, what in the world is this? And knowing that 2 years ago, that wasn't even a reality for any of us for various reasons. You know, some of the group had the money, but probably didn't have the time, didn't have the infrastructure in their own businesses to be able to get away like that. And it was just an incredible moment and an incredible mind expanding experience, because we start looking around and going, this is going to be real hard to not vacation like this ever again. I mean, you know, I'd never done something like that before. You know, we wake up in the morning and the guys are in the kitchen cooking breakfast for us, and we all sit at the table and they bring all our stuff over to us. You want a margarita? You want a mimosa? Like, it was just amazing. Everything about that experience really shows what's possible. And it was a culmination of the work that we've all been doing for the last couple of years. And no one knew that we would be at that point. And you know, I mentioned Mike Claudio earlier. One of the things that he's been saying recently, he goes, you know, you cannot fathom where you will be in 3 years from now. Like, for those of us who are showing up, who are doing the work, who are striving for more, who are looking for the most elite version of ourselves, like, you just can't fathom where you're going to be. And so, you know, we're sitting in this mansion going, well, what's next? Like, where do we go from here? So we got some big plans. We put some things on the vision board of like, this is where we're going to go with this. And I have no doubt now that it'll happen. And it's still like, it's still kind of foreign to me a little bit because it's so big, but knowing what we're doing, knowing what we're working on, knowing the group of people that we're with, like, I have no doubt it will happen. And it was incredible. So those are the two.
Hearing those stories, both of them, both the family side of it and the business side of it. I mean, which also involves family. Love hearing those. It's so powerful what you're sharing, though. If you'd have told me where I'd be 3 years, where I am today, 3 years ago, I'd have told you you're nuts, and everybody around me would have told you you're not. Like, that's nuts. And so I totally relate to what you're saying, and it's great hope for someone listening right now who's not really where they want to be. It really is. And that's precisely, you know, precisely why I asked that question. Because look, we do work to live, not live to work. And you said it. If you're in it, you got it, you're focused, you're dedicated, you just keep moving, you'll get there. And you just never know when. And you don't know what the future is going to bring. So I look forward to two things. One, my invite next time you guys go. That's one. And two, I look forward to seeing what happens 3 years from today. So I'll be following you, and we will follow up again. I appreciate you. Look, I know this was a time investment, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. You chunked time out of your day to come and share with people something of great value. And I celebrate you, and I thank you for that. And I'm grateful for that. When somebody listens to this, they watch it and they're like, That guy, I really resonate with him. I've got to reach out to him. What's the best way for them to reach out to you? Is it social media? Is your website? What is it?
So I live on Facebook. That's a super easy way to find me, Marc Zalmanoff. And I have a website that is thefitnessninja.phonesites.com. And that literally has every link imaginable from here's my website, here's my Facebook group, here's my podcast, here's my merchandise, here's my book. Like, it's got everything on there. But honestly, you know, if somebody wants to reach out and find out more about who I am and what I do, Facebook's probably the spot, because you're going to get a pretty good sense of who I am and the type of content that I deliver. And I have a lot of fun. You know, I said it before, like, entertainment's part of my core values, and I make sure that, you know, I leave people better. That's the mission.
I love it. I love it. Full circle, my man. Thank you so much. This is Brad A. Milford with the Unlimited Business Wisdom Podcast, where this is fun. Business owners making 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Look, there's a lot of talk about figures on the internet today, right? So it could be any one of those figures, but it's not all about the money. It's also about creating impact, sharing their wisdom globally to make the world a better place. Thanks for being on as a guest, my friend.
Thank you.